Hello, everybody. Oh, my goodness. And welcome back. Well, it's been a minute, okay? But welcome back to In the Paint right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I am Christy Winters Scott, and joining us in the paint today is none other than Rushia Brown. Rushia, my dear sister.
Hello,
Thank
my
you for
friend.
carving out some time and joining us today. So good to see you.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to see you, Christy. So thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. I need a hug. I need a hug.
Yay! We got to get one in person soon.
We got to see each other soon because there's been some growth in the WNBA, and we're going to get into that. Maybe we can start a little bit with that and then end with it as well, kind of sandwich all the other journey parts of your game in the middle. But 3 new teams added to the WNBA. You spent 7 years in the WNBA, and 6 of them were with the Cleveland Rockers and then with the Charlotte Sting, correct?
Absolutely.
Oh boy. So I saw you at the presser, which I was like, yes, look at my girl up there. Yes, I was so excited to see you, number one. But just reflect for a moment before we get into where your love of basketball started. But what did that mean for you to sit right there and hear Cleveland's name called by Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner?
Yesterday was so surreal. It was just a culmination of all the amazing things that have happened over the years. So actually, the last few decades, because Cleveland was my first WNBA home. So it always holds a special place for me. And since it was, dissolved, there have been so many fans and even teammates talking about how do we get a team back in Cleveland just because of how special it was. And nobody had an answer. Then the rumors started, murmuring, and people started saying, well, hey, there may be a chance. And so all the questions.
Mhm.
But to be there yesterday when it was announced and to be there with Nick and the other people from the Cleveland Cavs staff and Rock Entertainment was unbelievable because now I get a chance to be a part of history twice. So for the second time for WNBA in Cleveland. So I was just really excited about the opportunity and their enthusiasm about bringing women's basketball back to Cleveland.
Mhm. And what will your role be with the new expansion team and the return to Cleveland for the WNBA?
Nothing's been set yet, but I definitely put myself out there knowing that I want to be a part of the growth and development of WNBA in Cleveland again. I've had several positions throughout working in the league front office, as well as 2 years with the Sparks and 2 years with the Aces. So I've pretty much done some of everything. So I know I can be of use and of service. And so I just want to lend myself to make sure that the organization is successful.
Oh, wow. I love that so much. And I can't wait to see what that is because I know it's going to be something and it's going to be something amazing to continue the growth and the groundswell of women in sports, but especially in the WNBA. But let's take a journey back to little Rusha. You started in New York, you grew up, you were born there, but then you grew up in South Carolina. Now, I know that from what I saw and investigated and researched about you, it was in 10th grade that you decided to pick up a basketball. Was there any time prior to that you had your eye on basketball, or was it in the 10th grade for you?
I watched a lot because my dad was a huge basketball fan. He was a Lakers fan, so I would watch the games with him. But as far as me playing, I didn't have any interest in sports. I grew up on the farm with my cousins, so we're out running around riding horses and running in the fields and having a good time during the summers. But it wasn't until the 10th grade that I actually took serious the interest of my coaches to come and play basketball.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that was the junior varsity team in 10th grade.
Mhm.
What was that like for you? I mean, having not played before, 10th grade, you're like kind of in the middle season of your high school career there. What was that learning curve like for you? And what was the love that was being created in you in the game at that point in your life?
There was only one way to go up because I was awful. I was just tall. I'd never played before, but I was athletic. But another thing about me is that I had been taught what hard work looks like from my parents, and I just wanted to do well and to be good. And I started off not doing well and not being good. So it just motivated me to want to work even more. I would get up in the mornings and go work out with my coach before school. Then we'd work out in practice. Then I'd work out after everybody else left
Mhm.
because I didn't like not being good.
Right.
So it really bothered me. And so that just helped develop the competitor inside of me because I always wanted to be better.
Oh, well, I love that so much. And obviously that paid off, right? You're looking at your journey from your 10th grade year. You had some targeted teams that you had your eyes on. I saw Duke, North Carolina. What was that like as a senior, as you had refined your skills, but you also had a goal of playing on the next level?
Yeah, like for me, my goal was to go to college. And with my family circumstance, my father had passed away when I was a freshman in high school. My mom is now a widow, and it's me and my brother and my sister. And if I didn't get a scholarship, I wouldn't be able to go to school. So basketball was my tool. So I
Mm.
started playing because, it was a way for me to connect with my dad, but also I wanted to go to college. And that put me in a position to have to stay locked in, to be focused, to work as hard as I could.
Mm.
And in doing that, you start to work and you see the results,
Yeah.
which motivate you to work even harder. And it's just like a circle of success. That cycle just really, it motivated me. But by the time I got to my senior year, like I had really developed. I was the number 2 recruit in the entire state of South Carolina, being recruited by all the top schools, Harvard, Duke. I committed to the University of North Carolina. And I literally had not gotten over the fact that, my father was gone. I was really close to my family. And I felt like if I went to North Carolina, I would never be able to come home because we didn't have any money. And Greenville in South Carolina was like 3 hours away from Charleston.
Right.
So I decided to stay close to home. So I called Coach Hatchell and said, "Hey, I've made a decision. I'm not going to come." And then I called Sherry Carter at Furman University and let her know that I'd be attending Furman University.
Wow. That is amazing. You know what? I've known you for some time now.
Mm.
I did not know that was the circumstance behind your college decision. Wowza. But wow, kudos to you for that at that age to be able to process all of that. Like while you were grieving, and you're still grieving. I lost my father, so there's never an ending to that. But
Yeah.
for it to be so raw, and that's a huge decision to make. So much respect. I already have so much respect for you anyway, but so
Mm.
much respect for who you were at that time to make that kind of decision, Rusha. And wow, and again, it paid off, right? Those decisions, that decision in 10th grade to play basketball and get better and want to compete and improve. But then, wow, as a senior, to decommit from your dream school. I you went
It
to
was.
dream school and you
Everything I had was Carolina blue.
wowza.
Everything I had was Carolina blue. Yep.
Come on. Come on now.
So that was a huge decision, but my heart was at home with my family, and I just was not really ready to leave. And things worked out in the end, but that was a huge decision looking back.
Right, right. I mean, you were freshman of the year, right? And
Mhm.
at Furman, and
Mhm.
then had an enormous success at Furman wearing that jersey. What do you recall from that chapter of your life, those 4 years at Furman? Who did you become as a young woman during that time? Not just basketball. We can see and read the accolades, but who did you mature into during that time as a young woman?
And it's funny because when you're playing collegiate sports and like your life is not your own. And
Nope.
so I thought going to North Carolina was going to be my challenge as far as getting home. Basketball ended up being the challenge in not getting home because it's year round. You get a week here and maybe a week there, but it's pretty much
Yeah.
the entire year. So I could have gone anywhere and not been able to go home.
Mhm.
But the time that I spent at Furman, just because of the diversity or the lack thereof of diversity, it helped me learn more about myself as a Black woman. It helped me learn how to integrate into different cultures and, mindsets. It
Mhm.
helped me learn how to balance my time and my studies and sports and even social life. I just had to figure a lot out about what I wanted and who I wanted to be. I made a lot of great decisions, but I made some pretty bad ones too. So luckily, I
Oh,
made more good ones than bad ones. So it definitely was. It put me in a position to see things differently and just have amazing relationships, even still, with my teammates and coaches that were there at Furman.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know during that time, the WNBA wasn't quite going yet, right?
Mm-mm.
There
Nope.
was talk about it. The ABL was kind of going around that time when you were in college, and all the discussions were there. But what did it mean for you during that time to go overseas and play? I mean, you had a 10-year professional career, and
Mhm.
we already discussed that 7 of those were in the W. But when you had to continue your basketball career, you had to go overseas, as did I, and that was a challenge for me. But what was it like for you? And going back to your touchstone of your home base, right, and your family, but then not only going to Furman, but now going across the oceans.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
realize that. What's that like?
Luckily during my time at Furman, I grew and I developed and I was okay with leaving my family because it put me in a position to want to explore and understand what it was like to play internationally. But when I got the call, I remember my coach called me. She's like, "Hey, Rushia, come up to my office at 2 o'clock. Some guy called and said he wants to help you play overseas." And I was like, "Really?" Because when I went to school, it was just about getting an education
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being able to go to school for free so I could get a good job. Playing professionally was not in my mindset. I just wanted to go to school for free.
Right.
And one thing led to another. My love for the game turned into opportunities. And so when he told me about it, I couldn't imagine playing the game that I loved, that I would make time to do and being paid for it, getting a car, a house, like all the perks. I was like, sign me up. I am there.
Same.
So my first, 2 years, I played in Spain for 2 years, France for two, Italy for four, Greece for one, and Korea for one. And every year was special. And I just had a great time. I immersed myself in the culture, the food, the people, the language, took full opportunity of everything that experience had to offer.
Oh, I love that. Oh, wow. What a
Mhm,
journey. What a journey, Rusha.
mhm.
I
No,
love
it was great.
and then the WNBA started. What was
Mhm,
that like, to having played in a myriad of different countries and cultures and all of that for the love of the game, okay? And you
mhm.
get paid, but for the love of the game. I mean, you didn't want to put the basketball down. But when the WNBA came knocking, right? What was that transformation like for you to continue your career, but to land in Cleveland?
The WNBA did not come knocking. I went knocking because that first year I was into my third year playing internationally when the league started.
Okay.
And this is where it gets kind of funny because, when they started choosing, when they made the announcement, I called my agent, Abraham, and said, "T, I want to be on one of these teams. You got to help me." She's like, "Well, Rushi, it's going to be of high regard. And so it's really going to be top players in these major colleges like Stanford, Tennessee, North Carolina, who recently won a championship that I elected to decommit from and go to Furman.
Mhm.
So my name wasn't going to be a hot name.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that I looked at and was really, afraid of. But I've been playing professionally. I was really excited about it. I was having great success.
Mhm.
But what they did in that beginning, they selected the Olympians because it was right after the 96 Olympics. They selected Olympians. Then they went and they took the top players.
Mhm.
Of course, they got the top players from these colleges. And I was like, okay, nobody's checking for me yet. But they came overseas to get players that were playing professionally. And I was like, okay, for sure, I'll be seen here. I literally was leading France in scoring that year when they came over.
Mhm.
And I never got drafted. So I was undrafted. I didn't get invited to camp, none of that. So luckily for me, that first year, because of marketing, they wanted everybody to be excited about it. They had open tryouts. I
Really?
was living in Atlanta during the summertime, so I was got with a couple of my friends. We came from Atlanta to Charlotte because it was the closest place. Walked into the gym to try out. 200 women trying out for two spots. That first year was crazy. Everybody was in there, grandmas, everybody wanted to be a part of the experience. After the first 20 minutes, they got their jerseys and they left, and then the real ballers stayed. But it was mad respect because the women, being able to pay homage to the women who played the game before us was fun.
Mhm.
But I made it down to like the last four in Charlotte and I got cut.
Mm.
And I'd never been cut from anything since I picked up a ball. So I did not understand, honey. I was shook. I didn't know what was going on. So I'm all upset. I go home to my mom and I talked to her about how heartbroken I was. And she literally was like, "So what you doing? What do you think you're good enough to play in this league? Or do you want to play?" And I was like, "Lady, they just cut me. Exactly what am I supposed to do?" So I did a little research and I found out that the following weekend Cleveland was doing their tryouts.
Let's go.
So I packed up. My brother drove me so I could rest and went to Cleveland. And same thing, 200 women trying out. And I literally made it down to 200 to 150 to 75 to 30, down to the final six.
Let's go.
And Coach Linda Hill McDonald, she tells everybody, like this is what it is, then we got to the final four. And luckily, they had two players that would be on the team, and then you had two practice players
Right.
because they wanted to have people in place in case somebody got hurt. You could just already know the system and jump in. She was like, "Rushia, you did a good job. You're gonna be a practice player." And I was like, "What?" And I found out what that was. It means, you practice with the team, but when the games came, you had to sit in the stands.
Oh boy.
When the team traveled, you would have to stay and work out with a secondary trainer.
Wow.
And I was like, that is not what I came up here for. But yes, ma'am. I didn't tell her that. I just said, yes, ma'am.
Oh,
And I kept working. So luckily we had 3.5 weeks of training camp before the season actually started. I mean, I busted my butt and anybody that got in front of me. And so I was just really proud of the way that I played and the way that I competed. And at the end of training camp, Coach Linda Hill McDonald came up to me and said, "Hey, Rushia, you did a great job. We're going to add you to the regular roster and not be on the practice team." So that was one of the things that I was really excited about and really proud of. And that put me in a position to be, share with my family and my friends that I was going to be able to play and they would see me. I could travel. Like when we go to Charlotte, they would come and see me. And so that was just a lot of fun. And so it just kept going. I played well. And 7 games in, we had a nationally televised game. We were playing LA on ESPN that Friday night. And so Coach McDonald calls me in her office and says, "Listen, Rushia, I'm going to start you tonight because you're the best matchup for Lisa Leslie." And, like the craziness is, like I'm super excited because I get to start. But on the other end, I was like, "Lisa Leslie, how you going to put me, like that's not fair. That's not what this is supposed to look like." Hold on one second. But we had, we played well. I came out, hit my first 2 shots, and then she threw the third one in the stands.
Oh,
I know, welcome to the WNBA. But I was so excited because, again, I've always been about the competition and being able to play hard and just work hard and just see the results. So I was excited that I was able to be on the team. And I went on to be a starter for the majority of my career there.
oh my gosh. First of all, I'm trying to reel back these tears because
Mhm.
what a journey and what a story you have right there of fortitude and reward. That's, I mean, for me, that's what it's all about, right? The perseverance, Rusha. Oh my gosh. So you earned your way not only to be that linchpin for the team and the best matchup against Lisa Leslie on national TV. I bet Robin Roberts was calling that game. I
I'm
don't
sure she was. She was around somewhere.
was. But then you said you not only did that, but then that propelled you to be a starter for the rest of your career there. What was that like? And I know, you were a great leader at Furman. You were a great leader, I'm sure, in high school when you started playing in the 10th grade. And this is, you go from that to being a perennial starter in the WNBA on these nationally televised games in the W. Like, I'm just kind of reflecting myself, but you had to take some time to reflect on what that truly means for others. But when you were a leader as a starter, and not just statistically, but what kind of advice, not only were you giving your teammates, but what kind of self encouraging words did you utilize for yourself when you looked yourself in the mirror during that journey and during that arrival of being a starter? And how did you sustain that? Because you weren't satisfied, you didn't get comfortable clearly because you held that spot.
Christy, it was so funny. And it took me years to look back at it to realize how amazing the story actually was and how purposed my life is. And it was never about me. But the thing that I always did was just try and stay in the moment. Every day, I wanted to work even harder than I did the day before. I wanted to be a good teammate. One of the things that I think kept me honest was that I knew I wasn't wanted. Like just in the sense that I wasn't drafted. Like all the things I went through to get to the team, I had to fight. And so I felt like I always had to earn my way. I always had to prove that I was good enough. And so that's what made me work hard every day. But at the same time, I think my teammates and my coaches, they recognized that about me. And that was the thing that allowed them to trust me while I was on the court or even in the locker room and in the community. Like I continued to be the woman that wanted to do better and help everyone around her to be better also.
Oh, and they were. And they were. I can attest to that
Mhm.
because not only did you spend those 6 years in a Cleveland Rocker uniform, you went to Charlotte, which was close to your home
It
at
did.
the end of your WNBA career. What was that like for you to, wanting obviously to stay close to home, near your family, travel the entire world
Mhm.
because of basketball, and
Yeah.
that leads you, but then to end up full circle right there in Charlotte, like just a few hours away from your hometown.
No, it was amazing because I got a chance to have my family come up. Like they came and visited me in Cleveland as well. But when you're 3 hours away, that's an easier trip. So they would get buses, they would be up there. Like it was so much fun. It
Mhm.
was overwhelming too because now I had to entertain family and get ready for the game and do all this stuff. So I had to learn how to multitask and be able to say, no, I can't do that. I'll see y'all after the game. But they respected that. So I really was put in a position where even more growth and development took place off the court than it did on the court. Basketball was the fun part.
Yeah.
Basketball was the game. And just because I loved it and I felt like it had shown me love in retrospect, I just wanted to be all in whenever I could.
Oh man, I'm really trying hard here.
Mhm, mhm.
But that's just so beautiful to me. That's just so beautiful to me. But with that, when you decided to hang the sneakers up, because the game is always going to be in you, the same way as you.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, there's a passion there for it
Yeah.
and what it stands for outside of the stats. And like you just said so profoundly well, it's not about you, it's about the development of your character that
Mhm.
comes through what you do. And to be able to hang the shoes up, we just witnessed Candace Parker have her jersey retired, and she
Mhm.
was kind of alluding to the same thing, like the bigger picture of that moment. And for athletes, professional athletes in particular, you have two deaths, right? It's like the
Yeah.
death who you were as a professional athlete, and
Mhm.
then whenever God calls you home. But
Mhm.
what was that like to come to that decision as a competitor who just worked your way to getting what you knew you deserved, regardless of what anyone else thought about that journey of yours? And you just stamped your legacy everywhere you went, like your passport, stamped every spot your feet touched. But when those feet came out of those sneakers and you had to hang those up, what was that process like to come to that decision, and what made that be that decision for you?
It was crazy how I decided. I remember specifically, I was playing in Valenciennes in France with Alison Feaster, Edwige Lawson, Susie Batkovic, like women that were in the WNBA as well. And I had had a season where I'd had injuries, my body hurt. Like
Mm.
I was still only 31, and as a post player, you can push it, you can play longer. But
Yeah.
I was so mentally tired
Uh,
because during that time when I played in the I would play year round. I played 7 years where I literally did this. I played year round, year round. I get a week in between, a week here, and I never gave my body a chance to rest. And we were literally at the party, at the celebration, and I was having a drink, and I literally said, I was like, "That's it. I'm retiring." It was like, "What? Girl, you crazy. You about to get paid because you just won a EuroLeague. We were in the French Championship. We won the French Cup. Like we'd won everything that year." And I was like, "Nah, that's it." And I was like, "Whatever. We'll talk to you tomorrow." But the more I drank and the more I thought about it, I thought my time was done. I could have made a different decision, but in that moment, it was an easy decision for me.
wow.
But 2, 3 months later, when I'm in my house, like as an athlete, your entire life is structured. You
Yes.
know what time you wake up, you know what time you need to eat, you know what time you have to train,
Right.
you know what time you do everything.
Yeah.
And when I was left to my own devices, I didn't have any structure. I would sleep. I would just get up. My friends would be like, what do you want? I call everybody like, hey, what you doing? Want to go to lunch? Let's go eat. Let's go have a drink, like whatever. And they were like, we have jobs. We can't
Right,
just hang out with you all day because they weren't the athletes that I was.
right,
So
right.
that just put me in a different position. But there was, some depression trying to figure out who I was without the game because that's what I'd been for so long and understanding Rusha without the ball and what my impact and my purpose was and figuring those things out. But there was definitely an adjustment period and a grieving process, like you said, a death to my basketball self.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's still have I still had chills just from
Mhm.
saying that because it is like a free falling leaf, right? It's just like
Yeah.
everything. I mean, when you were in college, you had your study hall, you had practice time,
Yes.
night leaves at this time, you just be where you're supposed to be. And when you're on your own like that, especially with a
Figure it out.
daily schedule,
Mhm.
even if you weren't in season, you were still gonna be working out.
Oh, absolutely.
Still had
There's
your
always structure.
There's always something. So yeah, that's something that I think a lot of professional athletes, recently retired professional athletes, really need a safe space to fall with that in mind, right? How do you guide yourself through that? And how tough was that to not only be in it but to get through it the way that you did?
Ironically enough, I have an amazing family that was extremely supportive and they helped me because my mom was always like, why are you in there sleeping? Come on, let's go do something. Let's, da, da, da." Like she would never let me just sit in it.
Hmm.
Being active just really made a difference. Then I had some friends who were like, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. So then I went to therapy. So there was a lot of nudging in the right direction from the people in my circles that really cared about Rusha that had nothing to do with who I was as an athlete. It really inspired me to start something for my sisterhood. So I started the Women's Professional Basketball Alumni Association, where we focused on women that played in the W, played in the ABL, played overseas that were retiring and transitioning into the real world and having that sisterhood, like you said, that safe space.
Yeah.
And I remember we did our first conference, our first retreat in Miami, and it was called Beyond the Bounce. And it was crazy because all of us had the exact same story, but we'd never told it to anyone as far as how we felt when we walked away from the game. And that's when we learned that we are even stronger together off the court than we were on because off the court, you feel like you're in a silo. You don't have anybody to talk to about it. You feel like it's just you. And as a top tier athlete, you're used to being like, if something's broken, I can get in the gym and I can fix it. If my free throw is off, I can get in the gym, get some shots up. If my jumper is off, like I can fix it, but that's not something you can fix on your own. So it took that sisterhood for us to be able to sit and talk about the masks that we were wearing, trying to feel better, about how we felt like we were imposters moving in other spaces. All those things were important to have those conversations, which, just I think we all got better from it. And now today, because the NBRPA, the National Basketball Retired Players Association, at that time didn't allow women in. So
Wow.
that's why I started the WPBA. But now the Retired Players Association welcomes us, and I'm actually on the board. So I get a chance to stand in the gap for my sisterhood as well.
Oh man, there you go again. Got me because that is so very necessary. Like I don't care like when you play, but it's just like it is a necessary uh assistance. I mean, there has to be some assistance there to give the guidance and give the empowerment pieces and to be not alone there and to recognize yourself and others going through the same thing because, as an athlete, you always want to stay so tough. You always want to just, I can make it through. Like, I'm going to tap in and compartmentalize. Like you said, go in the gym and fix that free throw, go in the gym
Mhm.
and this, that, and the other thing, but it's also off the court too. You're going to compartmentalize those feelings because it's like, well, I'm always tough. I've always been, able to fight through stuff. I tweak my ankle. I'm gonna fight through that. There's a place where you go, right? As an athlete, your
Mhm.
body's hurt, but if your mind is hurting, like, what do you do with that? And I think that's such a great resource that needs to be tapped into by so many more people.
No, you make a great point because so often we are, like you said, in our physical space and we don't have, I think for athletes that go to the highest level, that toughness is a gift and a curse
Absolutely,
because
absolutely. It like glitched again, but you're okay. It's okay. It's gonna come back. Oh, it froze. But stay right there. Stay like it's like it froze for a second. Oh, there you are. There you're back. Okay, it's a blessing and a curse for sure.
Okay. So, and one of the things I think that toughness that we have as athletes is a blessing and a curse. Because when you're an athlete, you can push through if my ankle is hurt. You push through if, something's going on, my shot's not falling. I'm going to keep shooting. But when we get off the court and we have that mental capacity, that mental space where we're not secure, we don't know how to push through. We're trying to push through that, but we need help. So I
Yes.
think it's really important that we let ourselves be vulnerable, allow ourselves to speak to someone, and do the things that are necessary to be healthy on the court and off.
No, that is so beautiful, Rusha. And I know, where can people find that? Because we're not finished yet, but while we're discussing it, where can people find information? If you want to share that right here, we'll share that.
Yeah. So with the young ladies that I'm working with as far as their transition, the legendsofbasketball.com is where we send our sisterhood to join the membership and do all the amazing things and get the help mentally, financially, emotionally, just all the things you need to do well. We have a new CEO. Our Antonio Davis has just come in to be our head man in charge. So I'm just really excited about the direction the organization is going. But I do realize that we need one another more so now than ever once we retire.
No doubt. I mean, we're more alike, my friends, than we are
Mhm.
unlike. That's what Maya Angelou
Yes,
always said. I
absolutely.
stand on that 10 toes, and every day plus Sundays. But with that being said, your impact not only with the retired players program that you are nurturing and continuing to grow, but what else have you been into? I know when you said you went overseas, you had some foodie and culinary
Mhm.
interest over there.
Mhm.
That's something that you've also been able to tap into as well.
I love food. And so not only eating, but I love cooking. So I've been in positions where, I love to entertain. I've always got a house full of people that I'm cooking for. And I even started a meal prep company. The this is so funny. I did this, Food Guru. And I just love preparing and assisting people however I can. And food is like my love. My love language is food. My grandma would be the one who would cook and everybody would be there. Even when there wasn't enough food, she would make it spread and everybody would eat. And I find myself following in her footsteps and my mom's footsteps and always cooking and feeding people. But yeah, I started a meal prep company. I've one of the other things I've done, I have an AAU program here in Atlanta. We're only in our second year. We had 4 teams last year. We have 10 teams this year. And these children are challenging me, but I love it. I love it. I love it. And I just want to give them an opportunity to see what life could look like if you commit yourself to something.
No, that is so awesome. And I know that you have motherhood also, as well as all these other tentacles of impacting communities, whether on or off the court or in the kitchen.
Mhm.
But your daughter Morgan, I know she has a lot of pride in you as being her mother, and to know that you have not only persevered but you have set the blueprint for her to do the same, if not more, because she believes that she can do it because she's seen you do it. What is it like to see yourself in her eyes?
Girl, scary, because this little girl is a mini me. Like not the 13-year-old Rusha. She's the 53-year-old Rusha. And it is crazy. But Christy, just listening to what you said, my daughter is very she's very traveled. She's been around the world. She's been exposed to so much. She challenges herself. She's an amazing little creature. And at the same time, I look at her and I don't want that pressure on her because she chose basketball. And I know every time we walk into a room, you're gonna be like your mom. Are you gonna play in the WNBA? And like, that's different. I want her to live and build her own life. But she's handling it pretty well. But the thing that I know about her is that she's going to do it her way. I'm just going to be mama as much as I can and help guide her decisions. But as you were talking and you said perseverance a number of times. I do a curriculum where I talk to kids about the passion principles, and perseverance is the P in the acronym. And then just when you were talking about how she sees me, she wrote a poem for her Black History Month when she did it was Black Excellence. And some of the things, like you said, like when I read it, and I don't remember the last time I cried. I literally like tears because, kids are weird. Like she's 13 and she has her own personality and she does this, that, and the other.
Right.
But to see how she sees me, like through that poem, just really put me in a space of motherhood and just so humble. I was so humbled and just so appreciative that she's listening to some of the things I say because you would think they never even listen.
They're listening.
She's listening. But
Oh,
I mean, that's my proudest accomplishment is being her mother. And so every day I'm challenged. Some days I feel like I get it super right and I'm mom of the year. And then there's some days that, honey, I could be given away because I know not what I do. But every day I grow, I learn, and my journey is just to make sure that I keep her in a positive space, no matter what that means for me.
absolutely. And I think, with the WNBA and with women in sports in general and what's happening right now with that, and for her to be 13 and to be right in the thick of witnessing the respect of that. Can you imagine what that's doing to that age group of young girls to see
Listen,
the acceptance? What do you think that is for her?
it's unbelievable because like now we have all the girls that they're training and the boys want to come practice with them. Like before we would scrap to get on the court so we could play with the boys. They're like, hey, y'all running today? Can we come run with y'all? Like there's such a shift
Yep.
that is taking place and
Yep.
the level of respect. And just yesterday when we were in New York for the presser,
Mhm.
they kept saying, "We want the young girls to see these women. We want the young girls." And I was like, "No, we need the young boys to see as well because they need to understand how to respect,
Yep.
to have empathy and apathy for what's going on with these ladies that are playing the game." So we want to make sure everybody is growing and developing from this space. But we are in an amazing space. I'm so excited about what the W is doing right now.
Oh, I am too. And we'll just circle all the way back to that where we started with the growth of the league,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So I think, with you being up in New York yesterday for that, and we're taping this prior to the Commissioner's Cup this evening between Indiana and Minnesota, and that will be covered on Her Hoopsats podcast on a future date. But when you are in that space to hear them say that about the game and reflect back to when you were in 10th grade and what was that like what was that like to be sitting there as a living witness in New York hearing Kathy Engelbert say, okay, here are the three new teams, with Detroit, Philly, and Cleveland. Okay, and then what if little Rusha was sitting right there, 10th grade Rusha? Like what do you think she would have said in that moment had you been able to go back and had a voice?
Christy, there was not even a blemish of a thought in my head of playing at this level. I just wanted to go to college and I knew I couldn't pay for it. And like I mentioned, when I got a chance to go play overseas, that was, oh my God, I was just so enthused and overwhelmed. And then the WNBA, that whole journey. So I just, every day, I'm living the dream. I am living the dream. I'm not playing anymore, but I'm watching these amazing women set records. I got a chance to work with the Aces where I went and picked up Asia Wilson after we drafted her. I was in New York at the draft, became, like her mentor in the first years and just helping her with the off the court stuff. And my daughter, like Morgan, was in the gym shooting with Kelsey Plum and Asia Wilson. Like Sydney Colson, like all these, like this game has done so much for me. This game has done so much. So it is just, I know it's my purpose to make sure that I pass it on to these young ladies that I'm dealing with and impacting that are playing under my AAU team passion, and just giving them an opportunity to see what life can look like. This game will love you back. If you love it, it will love you back. And there's just so many opportunities because sports is the shortest career you'll ever have. But all the attributes that you grow and build while you're playing will help you be an amazing woman or man long after you put the ball down.
No doubt. I mean, it's all about the team and it's all about the love of the journey, of it all, right?
Mhm.
And you said the piece in the process
Mhm.
of all of it unfolding for you the way that it did, and the fire that you had in your belly because of how much you wanted to be successful at
Mhm.
what you wanted to do, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's what this entire groundswell of women in sports is all about, right? And it's not about being a professional athlete, it's about being a good professional at whatever you choose,
Whatever it is.
right? But you're going to have those components in your character about being disciplined, being team first, being compassionate, like you said, and respecting the journey that you're on and always wanting more. And I think that's what sports teaches you, regardless of what you do. But for your journey in particular, I mean, everything that I just said is like spot on to what you have been able to be for our game and the example that you are continuing to set. And I know that you're going to have some capacity with this new Cleveland team yet to be named. I hope that they stick with Rockers, but what do you think on that?
There are some trademark issues, so it's yet to be determined. But I definitely, whatever team is going to be an amazing because the people are going to be excited about it.
That's true too. That
Mhm.
is true too. And I know, there have been some conversations, and I want to get your take on this. That the expansion was done too quickly, but I don't think so. I think it's very necessary, especially with at the end of training camps when you see the names of the players who don't make rosters. I mean, there's got to be a home for these elite level professionals who I feel are being left on the cutting room floor that can hoop. And I think this is going to afford them that opportunity.
It's really important. And Kathy laid it out yesterday when she spoke about it.
Yeah.
It is a timely, situation. So next year there are two teams coming out. Then we'll take a year off, and then there'll be 1 year, 28, 29, and 30. But what we're looking at is look at the number of women that don't get a chance to compete. The WNBA is the most competitive league in the entire world. They did last year or the year before, they did 100, 144 because there were only 144 women. Now it's increased because we have the Valkyries, but that's
Right.
what, 156?
Still
That's
small.
nothing in the
Right.
grand scheme of things. So
Right.
there are a number of young ladies that you get your first round. What other league can you go where your first round picks could potentially
No.
be
Yeah.
cut,
Right. Right.
not
It's
make it?
yeah.
The
It's
WNBA is the most competitive league in the world, and it deserves the recognition, especially now that we've got all eyes on deck. So we need to make sure that we are giving these young ladies a chance, make sure that they have the support that they need, and ownership is making sure that they're doing what they need to. So I'm really excited about what this looks like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you need to have your hands and your feet in it. Yeah, I think you're just exactly what the game continues to need, Rusha. And I just appreciate you so much for sharing time with us. Is there any Are there any upcoming events that you want to share with us, or your social media handles where people can find you and learn more about not only your journey, but what is ahead for Rusha Brown, which I know is going to be amazing.
Listen, I definitely want to share that we are. So I have my nonprofit ServCom, and we have a program called Play Like a Girl, which is our free basketball clinic that we do for young ladies, typically in 10 WNBA cities throughout the summer.
Right.
We'll be going to Indiana for All Star, and that will be really exciting because we get a chance to do it. Indiana's going to be crazy about basketball during that time. It's crazy anyway, but especially during All Star, I expect it to be amazing. So we'll be there. You can go to servcom.org and click on Play Like a Girl to see the information if anybody is interested in coming out and having your daughters 12 to 18 to come out and learn from the pros. We'll have pros in the building pouring into these young ladies, talking to them about how they can create their own map to success through sports on and off the court, and how you can use the game of basketball to get all the things that you want. So I'm really excited about that. We'll have a Legends brunch where we will, recognize and give some fans an opportunity to come eat and hang out with some of the legends. So we're just doing some great things. And I'm just excited about the love that we get to show back to the fans who've given us everything.
Oh wow. I mean, Rusha, this has been so enlightening for me. I'm super proud. I know you came through DC and we did a clinic here in Reston, Virginia, right? With I
Mhm.
years
With
ago.
Ivy Lotta.
Like there, your baby was there. It's just been such a sweet and beautiful journey, but it's been based on the fierceness and the love of the game and the to whom much is given, much is expected aspect of it all, and the blueprint that you are continuing to lay. I mean, I already had a ton of respect for you as a woman, as a mom, but as a business owner, as someone reaching back to pull others up. We need more like you. I mean, I love you and I love what you're doing. And I am just super proud of you. I don't know how else to say it, but I am
No, sis,
proud of
I appreciate you and thank you. We all have our little parts to give. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with you today and highlight some of the fun things that I get to do because the game has gifted me with a platform. And I do want to share, you said passion a number of times. So I just want to share what passion means for me. Your P is perseverance, A is attitude, S is sacrifice, your second S is setting goals, I is inner strength, optimism, and never giving up. So whatever we do on the court, field, in the classroom, your spiritual walk, that passion is going to help you be successful.
Oh my gosh, I was trying hard not for another tear jerking moment, but that just took me over the top because it's
Mhm,
always passion, purpose, and pride. Now, like my
mhm.
foundational things that I tap into outside of hoops, right? Inside and outside of hoops. But wow, that just puts an exclamation point on this beautiful conversation with you today, Rusha. And I appreciate you so much for stopping by.
No, I appreciate you, sis. Continued success and greatly appreciate it. Check you
Oh,
soon. I'll be in DC soon.
absolutely. But hit me up because I need a hug.
I will, for sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on In the Paint with Christy Winter Scott right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. Rushia Brown, my love. Thank you.
Thanks, sis.